Hey, hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the session for Oracle SQL and PLSQL. We will wait for a minute and then we'll start. Okay, cool. I think before others are joining, probably we'll start and have a small intro. Uh, if we can share about what is your interest in the training, like what is that your expectation from the training, and if you can cover about like your background, like what you do, and like in terms of your education or any already having any experience with the any of the programming language or technology, what all areas, so that we'll have better understanding about our candidates, and we'll start with that. I'm just going with the order which I see on my screen. Mahesh, you want to start with? You want to share a couple of things about you and what is your interest or expectation in the course, so that we'll make sure all of your questions are addressed.
Hi.
Hi, Mahesh.
Yeah. Actually, I have completed MCA 2022.
Okay, cool.
So I'm looking searching job.
Okay, got it. Nice. And you have any prior experience, Mahesh, with any of
Uh,
the programming or any details?
I don't have any experience.
Okay, no
Yeah.
worries. And next, I see Chiranjeevi. Chiranjeevi, you want to share a couple of things about you and what are your expectations in the course? Okay, see him on mute. Okay, Sweta, you want to go next? You want to share a couple of details? Okay, Chiranjeevi,
Hi.
sorry. Go ahead, Sweta. Hi.
Yeah, myself Shweta. Actually, I'm a MSc Biotech student.
Mhm.
I was working in pharma side,
Okay,
so I'm planning to uh, go for the work as an SQL developer. So I
okay.
joined the classes and I have knowledge on Java.
You have John. Okay, nice, nice. Okay, thanks for sharing. And next, I see. Okay, I see the message from Chiranjeevi. Chiranjeevi, in case you what do you call having the problem with the mic, you can use chat window. I mean, not just for this. In case any questions during the session, feel free to use the chat window. We'll try to address it. Okay, next I see Lavanya. Lavanya, you want to share a couple of things about you and your expectation of the course?
Hello.
Hey, hi, Lavanya.
Hi, I'm Lavanya. I completed my MCA in the 2009. I was full-time mother parenting,
Mm,
but I want to go back to my career. So
mm.
I want to learn SQL, and after that I want to go for the Tableau.
Okay,
So full base I want the SQL and PLSQL.
got it. Got it.
Yeah.
You have during this tenure or before that, you had some prior experience in any of the
No,
programming
little
or
bit knowledge, but not much.
okay,
I
no
didn't
worries.
work.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, everyone.
Thank you.
So most of us, like whoever are joining in the session, are more or less at the early stages of the programming. I think except Sweta, you have like prior understanding on Java and little bit of programming experience. So maybe I would say like around uh, some understanding about like how those logical statement works, execution works, and we'll try to map it for you with the SQL part. And others probably I will feel that you want to start from as a scratch, like you want to understand from basics how it works out, and eventually develop some of the codes as well for it. Okay, okay. I see Jakruti. Hey, hi Jakruti.
Hi, Venkat.
Hey, hi. Hey, Jagrati, probably you want to share a couple of things about you, any prior experience with any programming or database, and what your education
Uh,
qualification.
no, I'm just fresher. I don't have any experience.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. No worries, no worries. Thank you. Welcome to the session.
thank you.
Okay, okay. Probably we'll start with the intro session, and then cover we'll try to cover all questions whatever you have it. I'll give you the game plan like how we are going to start with this session and what all things we are going to cover, and in case you have any questions or any other expectation part of the session, right, feel free to raise your question, and whether those are part of the session plan or whether those are not part of the plan, I'll try to address that and make sure your queries or concerns, whatever so it is, well, are clear before you take the next step on the session.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, you guys are able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, thank you. Okay, welcome to the session. And this is batch 354 for Oracle SQL and PLSQL. And welcome to Logic Labs Technologies. And along with Oracle and SQL, you do have like other courses. So part of your interest as you learn through, in case you are interested, you can go through the other courses and feel free to reach out to the support team for any clarifications on learning requirements as well. Okay. And so this session, just an high level overview in case you haven't seen through. This starts from today, 9th of September. It's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's a 30 days course on weekdays, so Monday to Friday. And the Saturday and Sunday, we'll keep it more of like a hands-on or a homework activity where I would be sharing a few assignments on Friday for you so that you can spend some time over the weekend, try to uh, gain some more what you call hands-on or get your hands free about the working and everything. In case you face any issues or have some queries part of this work, we can discuss that on the Monday morning session once again, so that whatever issues you face pretty much generally others might also face. Maybe others might have solved it, and maybe they might require some help. We'll try to make sure all your general queries as you practice are covered in the session as well. Okay, and every day whatever topics we learn in this 30 days, so make sure you practice, at least spend an hour or two part of your day practice so that you get complete confidence as you end the course, so not just on the theoretical per se. And the first three sessions will be free to attend, so are the demo sessions, and from the fourth session onwards are the content is completely available only for the registered participants. Okay. And the first two sessions, whatever recording we will go through will be available on the Logic Labs uh, portal as well, or the website. Those will be uploaded onto YouTube as well, so in case you search through you can find those things. These links will be shared through the community, WhatsApp community, where you already have the link on the Zoom chat. In case you haven't seen it, feel free to go through. I'll walk you through that links as well. And any announcements regarding the session, team will share over the WhatsApp community, so that any unforeseen situations or maybe any problem whatsoever, that's the communication channel for us. And for any new sessions, batches, whatsoever, team will keep you updated through this WhatsApp channel for you. Okay. And uh, all the sessions recordings, whatever we go through during this session, will be available on the LMS portal called as Graphy. So all the registered participants will have access to this portal, and everyday assignments, daily notes, whatever we go through during the session, will be shared on the LMS portal for you. So in case you couldn't join for whatever so reason you want to go through, you can go through the recording in offline mode. And in case you have any queries, any support whatsoever, you can reach out to the support team during the Monday to Saturday, or the time period which is mentioned, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., or over this email as well. So they'll be happy to help you out. And the main important thing, uh, there's no batch shifting sort of thing, because once you join the batch, make sure you take a decision, okay, and join the batch. So in between of the batch, let's say you want to shift a new batch sort of thing, that's not possible for it. And same thing with the refund as well. So please make sure you, whatever questions you have it, whatever doubts, dilemma or clarification whatever so it is, please make sure you bring it in the call. We'll clarify it, and we'll make sure those are covered or not covered. We'll make it very clear, part of your expectation as well. Okay, so it's a 30-day course, and it's not, technology is not something you're going to eat through everything or put up everything in 30 days, right? So it requires some support. I will make sure that you're going to learn it easily, you're going to understand it easily, but at the same time, it requires your hands-on support as well. So please do make sure that you have time to do that, and then register for it, so that we want to make sure that end of the session, the coverage whatever we did, it is useful for you, right? It some or the other way you should be able to use it and make the next step which is necessary for you. So that is the primary intention of it. Okay. And you can visit through our website, loginlabstech.com. I'll walk you through the links. Okay. So the upcoming batches, whatever we have it, it's starting from 9 September, the course for batch 354. And all the WhatsApp community link, whatever are shared, are available over this upcoming courses. You can navigate through this page as well to go through each of these links. And once you are comfortable, you can walk through the payment link where you can do the payment for as well. And before that, the main important thing is the course content for you, right? So you can click on the course content. The course content will be available for you, and the same link is provided on the Zoom chat as well. Okay. So we would cover about the databases, like what are different databases, what the purpose of database, and how database management works out, what all are included in it. And we will, part of the database, we would cover about RDBMS and relational databases, because for Oracle, that's the key point for us, right? We will mainly learn about the relational database. And part of it, we will learn about the SQL part, how we are going to create tables, how we are going to select data, modify data, or insert data into our tables, and all the different objects which are available part of SQL. And different built-in functions, aggregate functions, or the normal string functions, or something out-of-box functions, all are available. We would discuss about each of those concepts as we cover about each of the context, right? In what context, how it works out. We would work about from each of the context for it, and we will learn about all the execution format of the SQL, how the SQL works, how logically whatever you have written visually will try to help you out, how visually data will be selected from tables, how the conditions are brought upon it, how the group by, how the different clauses or order by works out in a SQL statement. We'll try to explain to how what happens at each level of execution. And then we will work about the different integrity constraints on the tables, how the constraints are maintained between the tables. And we would discuss about part of the queries. From starting with the basic query, we would cover about little next step. I wouldn't say like too complicated, but little next step to understand how the joins work, how different types of joins which are available, what situations, what type of join would be required for you. And we would cover about like all the subqueries, TCL statements, and all the database objects, how to maintain it, how to create them, how to drop them, how to identify the dependencies between those objects. All those things we would cover up. And after that, we will learn about the SQL and PLSQL as well, where we would start how the uh, programming statements are used in the PLSQL part, how each executable statements, and within that, how conditional statement works, how the loop statement works, and we would cover once the programming language is clear, the basic models of the PL/SQL are clear for us. We would club the SQL and PL/SQL to it. Like uh, instead of some static values in my programming, I want to get some value from the database. And how to do that? Link the SQL statement. I want to insert some data. How to link the insert statement or update statement? We'll club it together and make it as one API sort of thing. So we will work. We'll start with PL/SQL, basic PL/SQLs as anonymous PL/SQL blocks, and then we'll see through how to convert them into named PL/SQL block as packages, procedures, or functions. And we will come through the triggers. So part of triggers, we would understand programmatically how the integrity constraints are maintained in the database using trigger or using the database, the table definition itself or the model definition. We would see the difference between these two so that you will be clear like what approach to take what time at what time. So that understanding would be very essential. That eventually helps you to design your solution, technical solution as well. And after this, we would cover about uh, the the collections, where we would cover about bulk collections and how to handle bulk queries or bulk inserts or bulk updates. So we would cover about all these collection objects and part of these solution, each of them. Few topics we'll cover it as anonymous PL/SQL. Few topics we'll cover it as the in the named PL/SQL. It's not that it cannot be used together. You can use it, but we'll explain because lot many topics, right? So we'll want to cover in those days. We'll try to keep it simple. Small topics we'll cover with the anonymous. As complexity little slowly we step into complexity, we'll try to club in the complex activities to it, so that end of the course you would understand the journey part. Okay, how the journey from creating the SQL started, how we are writing a SQL, how we are clubbing it, adding the security in terms of roles, synonyms, or views, and then using it on the PL/SQL, encapsulating your logic, starting with anonymous, executing multiple statements as a single shot, and encapsulating the anonymous block as a named PL/SQL block, where the source is completely now secured. The user can invoke only the procedures or APIs. So, and part of that, how to modify it between a transactional APIs and the bulk APIs as well. So both the things we would cover it, and end of the session we would cover some of the advanced features what are available, and uh, all the things whatever we learned, how it would work behind the screen. Okay, once the concepts are clear for right how it is executing, now we will be able to easily map to the architecture. Okay, this is what happening from my physical files. It goes into logical place, and from logical place how the calculations are being done, what are the different processes which are involved in. Okay, so we will see it from the user or developer perspective, and then we'll see it from the architecture perspective as well. So you will be able to map it one on one to it. And at the end, for the advanced features and DBA concept, we'll primarily walk you through like what are the next new features which are available, and what are the some of the DBA concepts which as a developer you need to understand. Okay, so it's not that you're going to do the installation everything from day one, right? You have a DBA team or an infra team who takes care of this. From as a developer, there are few concepts which you need to know from the performance tuning perspective, like what are the tools we have it. Okay, how if I face some performance issue, I need some support, what details a DBA can provide me, how to understand those details, or what details I need to request from DBA side, or within my query, how should I fine tune it. Okay, so we would cover all those activities for you. Okay, that's the overall course content what we will be covering on the SQL and PLSQL part. So I'll pause in a minute here, and please do let me know in case you have any question or clarification or any doubt, and happy to help you out and make sure that the base questions whatever you have it are cleared out. Any topic which you have it in your mind which you thought of like want to learn something which is not covered, do let me know. I'll try to clarify it.
Hi, Venkat. I have a small
Okay,
doubt.
sure,
How
Lavanya,
long
please.
the uh, how long the recordings will be available for me for us?
Recordings, I think as long as you have access to Graphy, I believe I don't think there is a time limit for it, but
Okay.
uh, just clarify, check with support team once.
Mm.
To me, I don't think there's a time period for it, but just clarify with the support team. They'll be able to answer it in terms of the exact timelines for it.
Okay. Thank you.
But most of the things, as you walk through and practice it, I don't think you would require it if you practice on a day-to-day perspective, and that is for sure. In case
Okay.
you in case you couldn't join or you want to go through it, yes, you would have access to them. You can go through it any point of time.
Okay.
And yeah, link which is available, I'll ping it over this chat window. So feel free to go through the content. Okay, make yourself comfortable, and in case you don't have any doubt or clarification today, probably tomorrow you can join the continue the demo session. Okay, and in case any doubt or clarification, any dilemma, feel free to get it clarified. Okay, so our intention is to make sure that all your questions are clarified and you feel comfortable taking the next step forward. So once again, any question, anyone? And even during the session, feel free to raise your hand any point of time, or you can unmute yourself. Okay, and raise your question. Make sure that is clarified. It's it's not just for one-on-one session, right? It's a together session, right? So any question you might have it, others probably may not be getting it out, but they might have the same thought or dilemma somewhere in their mind as well. So we'll make sure those are clarified out. So that's where even I would get the clarity that you guys are understanding the topic, are on the same page, not lost anywhere. So even I will be confident and happy that I can explain few more topics for you, right? So different variations of it. So that instead of I like sharing like all the content in the hour long session, right? So if you ask questions, I'll be happy to explain how to see it in different perspective, not just one way of communication to it. Okay, no worries. In case you feel free to use the chat window or feel free to end of the session. In case the question arises, feel free to put it down. Okay. Yeah, that's the same curriculum, whatever I showed previous PDF. Cool. So before we jump on to the actual hands-on activity, right, which we would do from day 3 onwards, where we would understand how we are going to access the instance and everything, and start off the actual hands-on session, which we would do it on day 4. We'll provide you the access. We'll walk you through all the prerequisites which are required for installation or accessing the applications and all. Okay, and I'll walk you through installation of what do you call getting the cloud database access for yourself as well. So we'll walk you through all those things. So today, before we start with the session, right? So I want to understand, like, from your perspective, okay, what do you think is a database? Whatever understanding you have it, uh, feel free to pick it up, please. What is your understanding or thought on what is database?
Database is a system where we will be storing data
Mm,
and we're
that is right.
accessing through some query using query languages like SQL.
Mm, yes, that is right. But what is data? Like, does it require only our working information? Think through, like, in your day-to-day life, what is data? Okay, it's database collection of records. Yes, that is also a valid statement. Okay, let's walk through a step back, right? So data in simple terms is information, right? It can be a book, it can be a newspaper, it can be a library, whatever it is, right? So where you have some information which you have collected, you wanted to persist that information in one or the other form, you want so that you can share it with others. And this information can be a small data in a piece of paper, on a book or a newspaper, or a very big database or a digital database as well. It can be anything. Just that the form of this data represents with different names of it, but data as a base is nothing but information. As we talk about in the virtual world, we talk about like different applications like MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, lot of different applications. Okay, all these are different corporate organizations or applications which have their own way of storing the information. and their own way of providing an access layer for the users to access it. Why would you do that? The essence is to make sure the information is stored as required and accessed or modified as required based on the set of processes which are placed for each of these organizations. And the whole purpose of this activity is nothing but streamlining your system, streamlining by putting up a disciplined approach of storing your data, accessing your data in all different ways which is possible in a proper streamlined or structured way. So you can, if you see through it, right, you might have a library in your college or in your communities, wherever it is, right? So if you see through the library, the books are arranged in a proper way by category, maybe novels as one side, maybe spiritual as other side, maybe technology as one section of it, maybe the regular news or current affairs sort of thing as a different section. So within the it section, again, you might have subsections of it. Let's say novels, I might have like an fictional novels or non-fictional novels, or maybe like a kid or a comic novel sort of thing, different subcategories within that. So all the data, whatever you arrange in a library, for example, okay, you first have a thought, okay, what is the streamlined approach where I can place my data so that whoever wants the data can easily identify where the data is present, can easily go through that information and collect the data what he requires. It has to be smooth for him. If not, if I keep all the books like disordered, there is no proper categories, I keep as is whatever I require in my shelves, whatever it is, right? Obviously, there is no disciplined approach to it. Right? There's no processed or clarity or thought oriented way of arranging your data. So identifying one particular book or information which I required essentially might take a day long depending on number of books for me. So the database, whatever we are going to learn in simple, is the collection of information or the information for you, whether it's small, whether it's big. And essentially, as you're talking about in a digital world, right, not the physical world of it, we talk it in the virtual sense. Most of the information as we walk through, how a streamlined approach is built in a physical real life to make it smooth and easy. The same sort of streamlined process is brought in on a virtual world as well, what we call as a database in simple terms. Eventually, the organization, whatever you work through, can easily identify the data, eventually arrange the data properly, identify data, and whoever needs the access to the data, it as the data is arranged, I can easily, at a granular level possible, I can provide access to that data as well. So that's the essence of database as a whole. And this, as I said, brings the discipline in an organization, right? So that's the base or foundation in any organization, right? So if you have employees, how many employees are present, what are the data, what are their date of births, who are their managers, okay, what project are they working on, okay, where do where do they stay, what is their communication address, what are their, let's say, primary point of contacts in case of an emergency, like what is their ID card numbers, all those details, right? Maybe it can be their bank account information. The within that, an employee, there are multiple different uh, variety of information to it, right? One related to personal information of employee, one related to his private details like bank details, etc. Other details, maybe the contact details of employee, all the information, right? There are different categories, different variations, and uh, 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 versions of different data. So you need to handle this data in a proper structured way, which eventually will process as your organization is structured and processed. That's the way you replicate your data as well. So as a database, in simple terms, database is nothing but information or the collection of information for you. I hope this is clear. Okay. Now, why would a database require, right? As we talk about, once you everything is streamlined for you, okay, eventually it will help your business process, right? So it's the streamlined, the disciplined approach, whatever you kept it. It helps you to bring in a process in your organization. Once everything is in process, it's easy to identify the bottlenecks, where the delay in process is happening. Okay, what can we do to improve the process? What are the different variation a problem or a delay is happening? That collection of data helps you to analyze, understand a problem with a data oriented, and add some truth or proof of truth to say that, okay, this is how it's happening. Now if I take an XYZ decision, it can change my perception or the problem in a different way. Okay, whether it solves the problem, whether it simplifies the problem, or whether it complicates the problem. So that decision points will be helpful for me. So that's how the business requires it, right? Business needs to understand the problems in my, whether I'm uh, uh, spending too much money on my operations, or whether I'm spending too much money on unwanted things, or maybe the unused assets in my organization, right? So unused systems, it can be anything, right? From an IT department, they have different perception or their business goals. From a HR, they would have different goals for it. From an employee success, they would have different goals for it. So as you collect the information, these processes or business teams involved, they can improve their processes. So that's the main essential point which any organization would require. And as the data is captured, or it's not just keeping a track of customers, you can keep a track of anything. You can keep a track of your money, you can keep track of your employees, you can keep track of your customers, you can keep a track of how the project is progressing, how a person is performing in a day to day or quarter to quarter or year to year. You would need to capture all those details to bring the evidence for you, right? So you can keep track of lot many things. Okay. And the personal information, right? So once the data is stored or collected or stored in a proper disciplined or streamlined fashion, eventually you can keep aside what is non-personal information, what is personal information, what is private information, or what is confidential information. You can segregate your data accordingly. The access to this data is completely controlled. So that's where it's always essential to categorize what information it is, whether someone can access it publicly, privately, or confidently. You need to segregate that information. Once you build that segregate, you store the information in a secured manner. What does it brings to an employee or a customer, whoever it is? It brings the confidence and trust in your enterprise, confidence and trust in your database, that I can make sure that I can safely provide my personal details in your website. Okay, that confidence and trust need to be built. It can be anything, right? It can be a simple bank. Unless your banking application is safe, secured, properly organized, you cannot achieve it. So if these are not present, eventually the customer who is present, he cannot have the confidence on how his information is stored. So it maybe the phone number, whatever you have it, right? Maybe the email ID, whatever you have it. So previously, email ID or phone number, people don't used to bother a lot. Right? So we used to provide our email ID or we used to provide our phone number as well. Just a simple example to anyone. We used to write it at whatever place or piece of paper required. But eventually people started misusing it, right? So it's your personal information. Your email ID is your personal. Your phone number is personal, right? What eventually what's happening? Spams are increased. People are making a business out of it to share this what I call personal IDs as well. So eventually, it may not be one person who is knowledgeable can lead to a problem, or maybe other person who is maybe the piece of that fraction of the second might lead or break through the complete data, his personal or confidential data as well because of one link. So all these are those loopholes which are present for everybody. Now you need to make sure that if I provide my phone number, let's say simple to an Amazon website, right? So if you remember, like if you do shop on Amazon, for example, right? You provide your email ID, you provide your phone number, you provide your credit card details, you provide your house address details and everything, right? All this information, let's say it can be a delivery person. Now, previously, delivery people used to call you directly on your mobile number because they have access to your mobile numbers. And nowadays, if you see, you don't get the direct calls from your delivery people. You get the calls to an landline number or a mediator number we use. So they make a call to the customer support, the auto dial in functionality, and once they provide the order numbers, whatever so it is, that routes the call automatically, builds a bridge for you to your mobile number or contact number you give. It's not a direct connection from your delivery person, right? So that's how each organization are trying to build the additional layer of security as they understand the different categories, how different things work out. It will help you to solve the problems, right? That eventually is nothing but improving your business process. So it builds the trust, it builds the confidence, and all the things whatever we talk about, right? This database, there are multiple versions. It's not one version. So as I mentioned, different organizations have different way of storing it. Methodology might be different, right? But the essence is the same in storage of information. Okay. Now I can have a single file where I store the information, or I can use a relational database where I store the information. I can use a NoSQL sort of database where I use information. Different types of databases available for you. And depending on the real life scenario, how the information is accessed in different variations, different uh, uh, use cases. Accordingly, these types of databases have evolved and came in existence and usage. So let's say if you have like too much object-oriented applications, it's like if you see a lot of .NET or a Java sort of applications, right? Typically, they might prefer using an object-oriented database. So it's easy for it to dump the information into the classes to and fro. The class information, whatever you have it from an online database, you can dump into an offline database. Reading from offline back to online, it's easy for you. So depending on type of database, right? If you have like a hierarchical, right? Maybe if you're an other sort of system, for example, okay, you need to understand the hierarchical structure, like what is the what you call the source point, what are his childs, what are sub childs, whatever it is. You want to build some hierarchical structure to it. Okay, the information in this sort of functionality, we might use a hierarchical database for it. Maybe if it's a simple relation, like let's say in e-commerce website. E-commerce website, it's simple. There's no relation between multiple things, right? Just uh, accessing some data, seeing some product information, placing an order. There's no what you call hierarchical necessity in this case. And these sort of applications, I might use a relational database. Depending on the use case, how a database is very much closely related to the real life. In real life, how that structure works, right? We need to understand, and accordingly, we'll try to map it on our databases. So we are going to use the necessary databases accordingly. And there are, even today, there are many organizations which run on a single file based integrations, maybe an Excel file, maybe a Google Sheet sort of thing. We might have created a simple app on top of this. So they don't require the too much sophisticated database. Okay, they just need some sort of a single file where they can store the data. So they might just simple depend on a single file. It's a single client machine. I can use single file database. So depending on the use case, what is required for you at that moment of time, or maybe your future enterprise goal or roadmap, what to have it, whether I can sustain that in that type of database for the next 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Accordingly, the enterprise team or an architecture team would decide what type of database to go with. Okay. I'll pause in a minute here. Let me know any questions, any doubts, or any clarifications here. So any of the point which is not clear or the concept why it is used or not clear, please let me know. And these types of databases, which I have covered it, right, at a very top level, a very super high level sort of thing, we would have like basic SQL and NoSQL, because database eventually started from the first database, the RDBMS. Even though we have like file based, those are single file. We typically don't consider that on an enterprise databases. But an enterprise database eventually started with two concepts: a SQL database, which was the first one with RDBMS, and the other database, if I don't want to store it in a SQL format, not in a table based format. The other option at times started with a NoSQL database, which is a document format or a JSON document or a simple library, a large object document sort of thing. So depending on type of data which these applications has evolved in real life, at a very top level, we have two options: SQL and NoSQL. Again, within that, there are different branches of it, right? So within that NoSQL as well, NoSQL again, it's a very generic term to use. Within that, there's something like a graph database where I need to understand the timeline based system, okay, or a graph based system sort of thing. We use a graph database sort of database for it, or we do most of the document driven thing, right, where we handle too much files and all part of my business process, right? So I cannot depend on a simple table based approach, because information, everything is stored in a file for me, a Word document or a PDF document or an Excel document or maybe any text document sort of thing. These are driven by those documents. So I can have a document database as well, so I can maintain different versions of documents, and within the document I want to search something, I can use a document search as well. So all these types of databases have evolved as we have different use cases have evolved in my system. So The vector databases which are typically used, anyone who might have heard about the AIML, I believe many people are using it or hearing it on day-to-day life with the AML. So eventually you would require a vector database. It's not a table data which would suffice. You would need to have a representation of these mathematical equations, how each models are built and all. We convert them into a vector database for it. So that's the type of database which is used for it. So depending on your use case, you might choose one or the other. And again, it's not going to be one database and enterprise level, right? It can be a combination of two, three databases also. So not one database fits into all requirements. At front end, I might use a different thing. For cache, I might use a different database. For a backend data warehouse, I might use a different database. So depending on context, purpose, what is required, what performance is required at that section of your application, eventually all these different databases are used in one-on-one. Right? So it's a mutual world, right? So just like how NoSQL has evolved, same like a SQL database has also evolved. It's not going to be like suppressing one or the other. Both are evolving. Both needs to go one-on-one. Both needs to be residing in your enterprise. So that's the kind of hybrid model which most of the organizations are working on right now. I'll pause in a minute here. Just have a glance through of all the databases which I mentioned here. Again, this list is very commonly used database at high level which I'm sharing. There are multiple sub branches of it, different features, different lot of things. Okay, so it's not possible to in a single slide for it, but my interest is give you an understanding of all the different databases we are having in the market. We are learning about SQL part of the session, but at the same time I need to understand why the SQL is used, why not other different type of databases. Right? So when you get a job, join any of the organization, right? So you might see SQL as one database, you might see two to three different databases as well. So you should not be shocked that I learned only one, but the context or whatever we are going to learn in the session will be useful for you to easily scale up in other databases, and you can learn it easily. So that's the main essence, because whatever we're going to learn is the base of all the databases. Okay, please have a glance through on this. Let me know any questions, any doubts, or any clarifications. Okay, cool. If no other question, probably I'll. Okay, so I have a question: how two databases are interconnected? Uh, yes, Chiranjeevi, that's how the applications are built, right? So for interconnection, what we do is we create multiple APIs, right? So one as system APIs and second as a process API. So whenever we build some of the applications, so each of these steps, which on the business process, how it goes, certain activity will be performed in one database and certain activity might be performed in other database. So part of the process API, it clubs these system APIs into make as one process API, which will be used at the end. And let's say if I don't use the API based route, then we use multiple integrations between that, where certain activities are performed in one step. Data, whatever is captured, either manually or an automated way, we pump in the data into a different database to do that activity. Or we club two different data from two different sources and do the analytics on top of it. So it depends on the use case, how it is built, what type of use case I'm building it, whether these use cases can run asynchronously or asynchronously. Accordingly, we would decide what is the process which we need to follow for it. It can be a DB link, it can be a file, it can be an API, it can be an asynchronous way of working out, or it can be data from two different systems, clubbing it together to handle it. It can be different approach. So let's say for employee data, I might have an HRMS system which is working on the employee data, right? That is one way. Similarly, if you see it in, for example, let's say Netflix or Amazon, whatever we see it, right? The registrations, whatever customer does, right? The payments, subscriptions which are does, these are stored in an relational database. Like whoever are customers, what are the customer details, what payment types we're using, we store it in an RDBMS. Now the content, what we have it, right? The streaming content, the suggestions which comes up depending on how realistically people are using it. We use a different database, a streaming database for it. Okay, so based on the process, because it's not that two databases are going to be used at the same time. For one activity, I might use one database. For the other activity, I might use a different database. I hope it answered your question. Cool, thank you. And the other example, the relational database or a time series database, we have it, or a NoSQL database. Okay. So relational database, simple. Everything we treat in terms of tables, like wherever you go, right? Any system or any uh, uh, place you go, the first thing you see it is a table structure, maybe a simple matrix table type. You have like headers, and then the numbers like 1 2 3 and all, we write each data, simple matrix or table format. That's why SQL is mostly commonly used, whether you it's go to a college, whether you have it in your society, whether you go to any e-commerce thing. It's a simple SQL based database which is base for anything. On top of it, how you want to modify, like it's a time series sort of database. Let's say if it's a weather report, you get it every minute, you get it every day, you might get it every hour. You need to understand every hour how it is changing, how different deviation is coming up every hour. So you need to understand this time sensitive databases. You understand how the variations are caused. So in this type of databases, we go with the time series sort of databases, because these databases comes up with its own auto box functionality, which would eventually reduce your effort which are required. And a SQL, NoSQL sort of database, right? It's a simple social media what I have. Right? It's a NoSQL database. It uses a combination of graph, a node structure to it, and a NoSQL sort of database, because there is no structure. I might have a image which I shared. I might have a text which I'm sharing. I might have a video which I'm sharing. It can be anything. System needs to understand depending on type of data. So typically in these sort of things, we use NoSQL data, and depending on type of data which I use, we use additional plugins sort of thing on your application to uh, play the video or play the audio or image, whatever so it is. So internally within the system, it's a simple file based or it's a document based again. So we use NoSQL sort of databases in this structure, because there is no, we don't know what type of data which the user is going to use it. It can be a simple what's called your newspaper, for example. Newspaper also, it's a NoSQL database, how what they use internally. And what would I require as a components of database, right? We discussed about advantages, lot of things. What would I require? Right? If you have a laptop, or a system in you, right? You require a hardware. You require the CPU, you require motherboard, all the hardware which requires to run a computer. Similarly, even for database, you require hardware. You have CPUs, you have RAM, you have everything, motherboard, everything, right? It's a system, right? So it's system, it eventually you require the hardware. Depending on the amount of data you store, the necessary storage space need to be provided. Depending on how fast you want to have it, necessary the cache, RAM, and everything comes in picture for you, right? So all those things are required even for database. On top of it, you require a software. Or just like you have your computer, it does not run. You require an operating system to make sure that the hardware is utilized in the right way. All those things are taken care by your operating system. Similarly, in your database, it's an application software on top of it. You can install it on Linux, you can install it on Windows, or you can install it on Mac, whatever system it is. It's a software again. Software which does this activity. Like as I mentioned, right? You have a library. I just go and drop a book at my entry point. Now, the person, the librarian, or maybe the other people in the library takes care of arranging the data or books once again in the proper sections. Without that, it's going to be again a simple dump yard sort of thing. It should not be correct. We don't want our library should to look like that. We want to have it neat, have it clear. Similarly, your application, whatever you have it, you want it to be neat. You want it to be running fast. You need to make sure that it's running sustainably and it's running in a proper controlled fashion. So all it requires is a software which makes sure that everything is run as per its principles. Now, both are fine, but data, which is information, that is the key for you, right? You just because you have a laptop, you have a Microsoft Windows installed, you can't make use of it. You would create some video files, you would create some images, you would create some text files or Word documents, everything. That's the data for it. So each of those you might have different application. That's a different scenario. So your operating system does managing all these things, how to arrange it, how to make sure everything is clearly visible. All the information is completely the customer or user driven. And you need to have a data access language, right? So you cannot access data how it is stored in your system, because if I open a text file or a simple Word document in a notepad, it's all encrypted language, you can't understand it. But same thing, if you open in a Microsoft Word, you understand that neatly. A proper arranging of your paragraph, lines, everything is very neat. So there should be a language for you where this application works, stores the data in its own format in optimized way. Similarly, all the databases have a data access language, which we call it here in this case as SQL. Uh, and whatever we do in terms of all these components together, like procedures, something but the workflows, rules, and all the policies, your guidelines, everything, we call it as a form of procedures. Now, all the database which we are talking about, all these are essential for it. So you would require all of this, which are the main basic foundation of it. And database management system, which we are talking about, the software which does the activity, which does the data modeling, how the data should be used, how data is stored, how data can be accessed, retrieved, how the integrity is maintained between the data, like avoiding the orphan records or junk data in my database, how the security is maintained, how the backup and recovery is done. All this activity which is done from a data application or database application, we call it as a database management system. Even your Windows, for example, does have all these things. It has security, it has integrity, it does the backup and recovery activity, it has its own language for retrieval. Let's say the Word document has its own different language. We don't do that coding, but as you type it, it understands and converts it internally, and how it is stored again and how it is modeled again. Similar thing is done by your Windows as well. But now we're talking about something as a database management system as application. This is not specific to Windows, not specific to Linux. You can install it anywhere, whatever you call. You can, if I install on my server, I can access it from my client as well and on a different machine. So all these things which a database would require to control it, we call it in simple terms as a database management system. So all the advantages, problems, whatever we discussed are nothing but the whole thing with a database management system. So we would cover the different components, how these are done, how the optimizer works out, everything in tomorrow's session. So today we covered the introduction to database. Now we are making to the next step, the database management system. I have data, how it is managed. Now we would cover these in details of database management system and how the transition from database management system works onto relational database. So we would cover that in the next session. Okay, I'm we'll pause the session for here for today. We'll continue tomorrow on the database management systems, and slowly we will jump on to the relational database management system as well. Okay, you have any questions, queries, clarifications, please do let me know. I hope the concept is clear for you. You're able to understand it. Okay, Sweta, I see you unmute. You have any question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Hey, Alavanya, you have any question?
Okay, thank
Hmm?
you.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. We will meet tomorrow, the same time.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.